Okay. Alright guys, welcome to this tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to get started with Archicad, and I think I'm actually going to make this a series. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start a project basically just for the purposes of showing you guys some of the features of Archicad, and we'll kind of just build on top of it as we go through the series. So let me go ahead and start a new project. So I'm just going to hit new here. And we're going to use a built-in template, Archicad 26 template. I strongly recommend that you guys actually create your own template as early on as possible, because those will save you some time when you're doing working drawings, especially if you're in the business of getting permits and doing construction documents, working drawings, that kind of thing. It'll really help speed up the process. But for now, we'll start with their template, just so that everyone kind of starts with the same thing. And then we'll use a built-in profile, so we'll use the architectural profile 26, and then we're going to hit new. So this is what you should see if you're opening up Archicad for the first time and you selected those two options to work under. Okay, so this is what our environment looks like in Archicad. It might look a little overwhelming at first because there's quite a bit of things here. We won't go through everything in this video, but in the tutorial we'll try to go over as much as possible. So first, let's start off with what we're seeing here. This is kind of our canvas. So this is where we'll be actually placing objects, and most of our work will actually be in 3D, but there will be a fair amount of documentation in 2D things going on, like dimensions and text and whatnot. But over here on the left hand side we have our 3D objects. There's also a couple options in here to find 2D objects, but for the most part we will try to work in 3D. So our wall, for example, here, if we select a wall, if we place that in, it'll be a 3D object. If I right click, or I'm sorry, if I just click on the arrow here, we can see that we've got some predefined walls for us. So these are actually called composites in Archicad. We'll go over how to define some of these on our own later on, especially if you're dealing with wood construction or wood-based construction. These will probably not really work for you if you're trying to model it precisely with the materials that you're using. So I believe something like 80 or 90% of construction is just wood construction, at least in the US. So we'll go over how to define some of those later, but for now let's just get to know this environment. So we've got a couple tools here. We've got some predefined roof structures for us, or roof composites. We've got some slabs here, so the slab tool. So these are normally used for floor structures, ceiling structures, and even like pavement structures or concrete pads in the outdoors. So those are some common uses. You've got some beam tools here that are again predefined for us, so that's pretty nice. We're getting a lot with this template, it seems. We've got some predefined doors, exterior or interior, and I believe these are different based on the region that you downloaded Archicad for. So for us, if we select this door, you can see up here on the top you get some information about that object. So in this case we're looking at the opening dimensions here. So 3 feet is very standard for an exterior door, and you can actually mess with these and change the dimensions if you like, but it's nice that the template comes with these already predefined for us. We've also got a window tool, so we've got different types of windows here. If these don't look quite how you want them to look, that's okay. We can actually edit all of these objects to some degree, so I'll show you guys how to do that down the line. So anyway, those are our 3D objects. Down here we've got some viewpoints. So these are, so like the section tool, you can see these markers here that appeared in our canvas when we opened Archicad. So these are actually the section tools. So these will cut through our 3D model and sort of auto-generate the section drawings for us. And we can go through and, again, edit those, and we will eventually in this tutorial series. These outer markers over here are the elevation markers. So these are usually, to auto-generate our elevations. And again, you can place those by just selecting this tool here, and then clicking once, then dragging out your mouse, and then clicking again there. And then it's prompting you now to basically tell it which direction to look. You can think of this as a camera tool, right? That's essentially how it's auto-generating the elevation. So if you click on this side, it's telling you to face, or it's telling the elevation marker to look in this direction, at the objects in this direction. So anyway, I'm going to hit escape. I'll select that, and then I'll just delete it for now. We don't need that, so delete anyway. We've got some dimension tools. So this is how we'll be documenting in 2D, right? Some dimensioning tools, text tools. We've got our label tool, so if you want to use like an arrow to point at something, right, you can use these. And we can have a look at some of these later. Some revision tool or change tool, some lines, circles, fills, those are all down here for 2D. So anyway, let's go ahead and let's start dropping in some items into our 3D model just to see what happens. So the first thing I want to do, and usually you might want to do this as well when you're drafting up a site plan, right, is you're going to drop in some terrain. So in order to do that, we use the mesh tool. The reason we normally use the mesh tool is you can actually make this look fairly realistic and model the terrain according to the elevations of the terrain. So if you have like hills and whatnot, or very sloped terrain, you can use this, and it will essentially model the terrain however you want it to, and that you can get it pretty detailed with that, and you don't quite get that with the slab tool. So anyway, we normally use a terrain tool, so I'm going to go ahead and just click once, and then you can see once I've clicked once, I get this little these 3 lines of text that are kind of following me around as I move my mouse, right? It says dimension 1 and dimension 2 and z coordinate. So usually if you're measuring a lot, or you're looking up the lot dimensions on an assessor map or portal, whatever you use, you'll have the dimensions of the lot already predefined. So usually if you look it up, you'll just, it'll tell you what the dimensions are. Now you can see here that we're getting kind of we're getting feet and inches and fractional inches, but usually when we do these sorts of drawings, we don't get that specific. So I'll show you guys how to actually enter in exactly the measurements that you want, and then also for later, we'll show you how to clean up the level of precision that you want to deal with in the project. So for now, dimension 1, just we're going to go ahead and edit it. We can tell that it's this longer dimension, so this horizontal dimension. So I'm going to go ahead and specify that to be 150 feet. So to do that, I'm just going to type 150, and then I can specify the units by using an apostrophe here, but you don't have to. It'll actually, if you just hit 150, it'll default to 150 feet. But you can also just put the apostrophe in and put 150 feet. And then if you want to add inches, of course you'll want to make sure that apostrophe is in there for the feet, and then type in 6, and then the double apostrophe or quotation marks there for inches. Let's just say 150 feet for this case. Now if I want to edit the second dimension, which is the width of the lot, I can actually click here to edit it, but there's actually another shortcut that works a little bit faster. If I just hit tab while I'm in the other dimension, it'll take me to the next one. And let's say that width is 50 feet. So I'll just type 50 feet, and then boom, we've got our mesh there. Now, in order to view what this looks like is in 3D, we're going to go ahead and jump over here to our 3D tab. Okay, and we can see that we've got our mesh there. Okay, now I'll show you guys what I just did in order to move around the 3D model in just a second. But there's a couple things. For now, I'll just show you guys. You can use it if you hold down the Shift key while you're in 3D view, and then if you're on a Mac, you just use 2 fingers. You can sort of just slide around your model like so. You can zoom out by just using the regular motions that you would normally use on your trackpad to zoom out, which is by pinching your fingers. You can zoom out, zoom in. But anyway, that's good enough for now. Let's go back into our first floor story level here so we can continue drawing. Now, if I want to move these markers, and usually you'll want to move these out of the way so they're not in your way while you're working. If you just select the item and then you click, you get this little palette here, right? That's right over here. If I click on the this icon here, this will allow me to drag that that marker, and usually it's the same for any object, for any 2D or 3D object. You'll get that little prompt or that little palette there that basically asks you what you want to do with the model. Usually it defaults to some thing, to some function, but you'll want to get to know what some of those functions are. Let's go ahead and put in some walls. So I'm going to go ahead and select the wall tool. For now, I don't care what wall it is, but just know that when you select an item, you have the option here up on the top toolbar to basically select what layer it's in. It's automatically placing it in the exterior wall layer because I assume the wall we picked up is from the exterior folder, so they automatically made it so that it's in this layer. So it's pretty important to keep track of what layers you're using. So right here, it's kind of nice. They don't have, well, it looks like they have a lot of layers here actually, but they've separated them out into folders for 2D, 3D. Some of them will intersect, obviously, but it's kind of nice that they partition them into several folders for us. But anyway, it's in this exterior wall layer, so that's nice. We've got a couple other options here which we won't focus on yet, but let's go ahead and just drop in this wall. So I'm just going to click anywhere here. Click once, and then again, I'm just going to, in order to basically place the wall in, I have to click again, and it'll just place that wall in. However, I'm going to delete this for now, and I'm going to place it in again so that I can show you guys something that we can do here. So as with the other objects, if we're trying to specify a length or a width, in this case we can specify the distance by just entering in a number. So let's say I want it to be 13 feet long. We'll just enter 13 and then feet, and then boom, we've got a 13-foot long wall. The way to confirm this in Archicad is usually by default you can use the shortcut letter M. So if you just tap the letter M once, you'll see this, your mouse has turned into a sort of like an eyeball, I guess. And then you can kind of just hover over that corner of the wall, click once, and then drag out. Just drag your mouse out, and then you can see when I get to the other corner, it's 13 feet exactly, right? So that's how we confirm our measurements in Archicad, which is pretty important. So anyway, let's go ahead and drag in a couple more walls. So you can see here we're going to end up with this problem. So what's the problem here? The problem is this skin should be going to the outside, right? But it's not for some reason. So the way we can fix that is by doing a couple things. So you can actually look up here again in this toolbar at the reference line location, and you can actually uh, flip the wall on the reference line. So this blue line here is the reference line. If I just click this option, it should reflect across this line. So let's do that, and boom. So there we go. We have our reference line on the outside with our skin matching up exactly with the skin out here, right? And that's what we wanted. So that's good. There's a couple other things we can do. So for now, we can change the reference line location, the center, for example, the inside face, the core outside, core center, core inside. So there are different reasons for using these. For now, we'll keep it simple and just use these. I will say that if you're trying to put in dimensions so that the dimensions go to a center of an interior wall, for example, you want to make sure that your interior walls use the center reference line. But anyway, we'll get into that a little bit later. Let's go ahead and drop in some more walls. So let's go ahead, put that in, and then again we have the same problem here. Let me show you guys a quick shortcut to fix this. Instead of going up here and clicking the reference line or flipping the wall across the reference line, you can actually just forget about doing that and just click the letter P. As the wall is selected, just click the letter P and it'll reflect it. So so boom, P, and then I can see that even in the preview, right, it works. So I'm just kind of dropping these walls in at random, and then I can connect these just by dragging them toward each other, or I can use another feature that Archicad has built in, which is called the intersect tool. So if I click on this wall here and then hold shift, click on this wall, and then go up here to this toolbar, there's a little corner icon here. This will intersect the walls automatically, so I don't have to continue drawing them. They'll just intersect automatically. So that's kind of nice. Okay, cool. So let's look at this in 3D. So we'll hit 3D tab, and then let me show you guys another way to move around your 3D model. So we're kind of far away from the 3D model right now, so we want to get closer, but we want to have a little bit more control. We're going to look at this little person icon down here. If you click once, you'll get this prompt, which basically just gives you instructions for how to move around and hover through the 3D model. So you basically just use the WASD commands or keys on your keyboard, and you can use a shift key to basically move faster, and you can move up by, I believe, holding the space bar. So like this, space bar, and then to move down, you just hold the letter C, and then if you add the letter, or I'm sorry, the button, the shift button, it'll speed up. So anyway, this is our 3D model so far. So it's looking pretty good for a first model in Archicad. Let's go ahead and go back to our 2D view and place in some doors, because we need some doors in there. So let's place a door right over here. So these are just, I'm just going to kind of randomly place these. This is not a particularly, it's not going to be a particularly nice model. So I've just clicked once right now, and Archicad right now it's prompting me to select which way I want the door to open. Yeah, so if I want it to open this way, I just hover my mouse over here and then click once. If I want it to open this way, which is usually best practice, right? You want it to open toward the nearest wall. You just click on that side once it's there, and it'll place a door for us. Now this looks a little ugly, so I'll show you guys how to clean that up later, but for now let's just leave it alone. That's fine for now. Let's go ahead and place some windows by grabbing the window tool, and then let's click there, and then again it's prompting me to select which way I want it to open. It doesn't really change those options depending on whether the window slides or not, but yeah, so if the window doesn't slide, it'll still tell you choose which way you want it to open or slide. So anyway, I'm just kind of placing these at random. Not too important. Let's just go ahead and see what they look like in 3D. So there we have it. There we go. So our model's looking okay for now. Now let's go ahead and place in some floors. So to place in the floor, you're gonna use the slab tool, and we're just gonna select this floor structure. You can see again, this is placing it automatically in this layer here. So those are important for when you're defining your drawings, although I believe this template already has some predefined drawings for us. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw the rectangle right over. Let me escape. Let's do it again over here. I want to make sure I get most of the. Click once, and then there's a couple things I can do here if I want to extend the floor, because so far I only have floor in this section of the house. Let's look at it in 3D. You can see that it's intersecting with the terrain there, so that's why it's kind of glitching. So we'll fix that in a minute. But let me go ahead and head back into 2D view and show you guys a neat trick. So in order to extend this floor, there's a couple things we can do, right? So here's the first option, which is kind of the, I guess, sometimes it's preferable, can't speak today, but if you just extend out, use this offset edge tool, it'll extend it out to where you want it to go. And then if you click this edge and then click this this feature here, it says insert new node. I'm just going to insert a new node there, and then I'm going to offset the edge again by selecting the edge and then clicking the offset edge function and then just dragging that out like so. So now we have the floor covering our entire indoor space. So let's talk about how to elevate this so that they don't that the floor doesn't intersect with the terrain, because usually you'll want to intersect usually you'll want to elevate your houses, right? So that the water doesn't go in when it rains and whatnot. So I'm gonna hit Command All because I'm gonna select everything, and then I'm gonna hold Shift and then click on the mesh to deselect the terrain. And then I'm just gonna click on any of these nodes here, and then I'm gonna slide it up, and I'm gonna move it up 1 foot 6 inches. So I'm gonna make sure that angle is 0 degrees. So before you slide it up, make sure it's 0, or otherwise it'll move in your terrain. And yeah, usually you don't want the model to move while you're drawing. So make sure that the angle is at 0, and the distance we're just gonna manually hit 1 foot 6 inches. And boom. So everything moved except our doors and windows. So that's not good, right? So let me go ahead and select the door here. We'll click this top node and then click on the elevate function up here. And then I'll want to move it 1 foot 6 inches as well. Okay, so that's done. And now I can go through and select each of these windows that I've placed, and then move them up like this. But there's another shortcut that we can use in Archicad, which is kind of neat because we have a lot of windows, and oftentimes, you know, you'll want to move multiple objects at the same time of the same type. So if you do, or let's say you select the window tool over here. So select it once, click once, and then hit on your keyboard Command A if you're on a Mac, or on Windows if you want to just Command All or Control All. I'm not really sure what the command is on Windows, but you can figure it out, right? So we're going to just click that node again of one of the windows and then move it up as far as we want so that it lines up with the door, and it'll move up all the windows like so. So there we have it. Our model is looking a bit nicer, right? It's elevated. It's floating, right? We haven't put any foundation yet, but we'll take care of that in a later video. So for now that's it for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we'll talk about how to use dimensions and a couple more features. So yeah, that's all for now. If you enjoyed the video, please like the video. If you found it helpful, please like the video and subscribe. Thank you.